Welcome to the What's Already podcast. We fashion ourselves something. We're just here to have a good time. Mattson, go ahead, buddy. This is Mattson's cool shit. So I'm going to let him run this show.
It was an honor last time because I can't remember why I introduced Alec's crazy
I had
shit.
a tinfoil hat on, and JJ
lost his mind. We appreciate you all listening to that particular episode. We're really excited to just start branching out on some other things and topics, and that episode was pretty well received from what we can tell, and we're happy to hear that. And again, if you got things you want us to talk about, do not be shy and email us or jump onto our website and let us know you want us to talk about something. Tag us on social media, you name it, like slide into our DMs. Let's go for it. But this time around, Mattson's cool shit, as you've heard me talk about in some other episodes. Today especially, I think a lot of times with movie and TV, technology gets rolled up into that. We fascinated about CGI. We fascinated about the way that they do some of these shots. But a logical extension to that, I think, when I think about Alec, myself, and JJ, and all of our listeners as well, is thinking about technology and the influence it's had on you, and especially times when you've just been blown away, being like, man, that was amazing. I can't believe so-and-so thing is here. It's changed my life. Or it's blown me away what humanity can now do with said piece of technology, whatever it may be. And so today's episode is going to be each of us talking about some things that just blew us away, whether it's in our childhood or it's been later in life, where we just cannot fathom how awesome this device, this thing is, or whatever it does. And kind of want to have a fun opportunity talking about some of those things and get nostalgic where it needs to be, make fun of each other, and just invite some healthy back and forth there. And I hope you as listeners, it jogs your memory on things that have been impactful for you, where you can reminisce a little bit and be like, man, like I just cannot believe that we went from CDs to an MP3 player, which I'll be talking about here shortly. So with that, Mattson's cool shit, I'm going to start us off with what I just aforementioned. I've sat here. I have a few things I want to talk about today for myself personally, but something that I cannot, like, just blew me away was the start and transference of, I remember CDs. I even remember cassettes, but it was like few and far between. We're talking like JJ's 8-track versus cassettes. I remember what those looked like. I remember using them like very vaguely, but CDs for me were very much prominent. Like I remember my first album ever that I bought was an Everclear album. The name escapes me, but it was my first ever curse word on an album before. I was very proud. It was third grade. And then my next album was Limp Bizkit, Hot Dog Flavored Water, which is a extremely vulgar album. So I went for like
Starfish.
Yeah. That's what and the chocolate covered starfish. What a long title. But I remember you had I went to Best Buy. And that's where I went and bought a lot of my CDs. I think other people maybe went to like Barnes and Nobles, or maybe they went to Target or Walmart, but you had like just aisles chocked full of different types of CDs and things. Or you went to like a music shop. JJ could probably remember when you could buy records and other things. I'm not weird like that. But I remember that process where like you had to go into the stores and make that happen. And I remember when you wanted to rip, you wanted to like burn a CD, you had to, and that's where you started the changes, where you started getting like LimeWire, for instance, if you all remember that. And that's where I wanted to, before I keep going, is like JJ and Alec, like once you had your CDs, but we started to transition into like songs could be saved on the internet and you could start to rip them onto new CDs. Like what was your guys' go-to? I definitely pirated a crap ton from LimeWire.
Dude, Bear Share was mine. And then there was, I mean, before, what's this damn company name? There was
Napster?
Yeah, Napster was, I was there when Napster was actually
like legal.
Before it was completely illegal. I was around when that first launched, like we were downloading stuff. But for me, like you guys, you sons of bitches will never understand the pain of having to listen to public radio in order to get your favorite songs. And we had to have a fucking tape deck that had 2 tapes, right? And then it had a record function. So you couldn't get them because you could record tape to tape, right? That was what it was for. But you could also record any music coming out of the fucking tape deck. So we would put a tape in, and we used to hijack your tapes. There's this little hole. No, these people are like, what the hell is a cassette tape? but there was cassette tapes that had these little holes on the top of the tape. They're same with VHS that wouldn't let you record unless you covered that hole. And so we used to put duct tape over that hole. Like if we bought a tape and it sucked, we were like, oh, this tape sucks balls. We would cover that and tape over it. So we would have like an actual tape and you'd cover it and then copy over it with music from it. But seriously, we had to like, dude, and they always played the best music at night. So we would stay up until all hours of the night on the weekend and then put in your tape and you'd wait for your favorite song and jump up and have to run and hit the record button. So you make mixtapes and shit because otherwise it was radio, dude. That's what we did. Like you couldn't make mixtapes. They didn't make mixtapes until like now that's what I call music shit. And that was CDs by the time. But I had an 8-track player, dude. I had an 8-track player in a car. I had a record player at home. Like my mom had a stack of records that we would turn on. Like, yeah, I know all the shit before the real. Like, yeah, it took me forever to get comfortable with like digital music players because it was just it's still weird to me. Like, and I'm boring. Like people have all these big playlists and stuff. Like I hate random playlists that are huge. Cause I'm like, God, I got to find what I'm in the mood for. So I make small, tiny playlists. It's still a struggle for me.
What about you, Alec? Like, how did you first get your music and what did it transition into for you?
So I vaguely remember cassette tapes, but that's because my dad was old. or he is old. So he had cassette tapes and he had the 8-track player and all that good stuff. And he just did not advance with the times, which is fine by me. I didn't care.
Sure.
But it was the burning CDs. And I think the way when it moved into digital, I did the YouTube to MP3 where you could pull the audio from a YouTube video and put in an MP3 file that you could then rename in iTunes.
Yeah. Does anyone, Al, do you remember what your first like MP3 player was?
I think I had an MP4 player, like the cheap knockoff little log thing. Might have been MP3, but it was a log, like no screen really, and you had the forward button and the back button and the play button. That was it.
Mine was a mini disc player.
Hey, yeah, I remember those.
I had a mini disc player. Like they were super expensive. It was like this little square, and it was like blue, and you'd get these little square CDs inside this like plastic covering, and you could dump like hundreds and hundreds of songs on these things, and it worked like a CD player, but without the CD. It was the mini disc.
I just remember like ripping songs from LimeWire, and then like I remember dating girls, and you'd make them like a custom playlist on your CD, and that was like a big thing that you would do in relationships, and then fast forward to now, and like with my wife, when I proposed to her, I made a Spotify playlist of our songs that she was just able to access. But what I think still was just most impactful for me is jumping from CD to MP3 player, but even more so into like our proper kind of like when Apple got into it and they made the first like I can't remember, like iTunes for instance, but just their original, the Nano, that had like the spinny disc and the screen. That's when things really started to take off, and you could really not only listen to but like create your own playlist, actually see the album art, and being able to have a small compact thing, because I was a big runner in high school, so then having music that was portable that I could go on a run with was huge. And not having like a CD player that you had to buy a special Walkman that had like shock absorption, like so it didn't like jostle, and then you didn't have to worry about scratching your CD or having your little brother listen to it and couldn't find it, or they just like shredded it to all get out. But that was just, when I think back to monumental tech, that I'm a huge music person, even to an extent, sometimes more so than movies and TV. I listen to music constantly. That was an absolute game changer for me with the portability that it afforded, going from CDs to MP3s to now, where you can listen to it pretty much anywhere you go and you have access to it immediately. And whether you want to use Spotify or Pandora or YouTube Music, whatever it is, like it's there. And now you don't have to do the stupid LimeWire or paying for your songs on iTunes before, that costed so much. It's subscription based. It's all at your fingertips. I mean, it affords you guys the ability to listen to us anywhere you want to go. Yeah. And I think it's, if you had gone to JJ like 20 years ago and said, right now, I can give you a device where you can listen to anything you want, anything. You search it right here, it would have blown your mind. It still blows my mind.
Yeah, it kills me. I mean, it's still, like I said, dude, we made mixtapes too, and that's how we did it. Was we would hit the record button on the fucking live radio because that's how we had to do it. God damn it! So, and I'll tell you what, they meant more than you bastards downloading music on LimeWire and shit because we had to put that kind. I handed a girl a tape. That chick knew I spent hours trying to get that shit put together. So, but no, it melts my brain every day.
Did it sound that good though? That's what I was.
No, it sounded terrible.
The rejection hurts more when you put hours of work into it.
Yeah, no shit. Out. Oh yeah. Well, no, it sounded terrible. Like because it sounded like live radio recorded. I mean, it was horrible, static and everything. And if you didn't hit stop or play at the right time, like the worst was when like you'd get a song, you'd hear it, you're like, yeah, you hit record. And then you'd stop recording and then you'd have to rewind because otherwise you got the fucking DJ talking in between. And you don't want that for your mixtapes for your girl, dude. You can't have that. So you have to rewind to the end of the song and have to like listen and play. And then you have to stop it right at the right moment. And sometimes you'd fuck it up and you record over the last part of the song. And you're like, God damn it, I got to listen till they play that one again because I fucked it up. Dude, it was terrible.
That is some next level love right there. Maybe that's why relationships don't last anymore.
I'm telling you, it's too easy. Took effort to get that shit back then.
Alec, is there anything else on the topic of music from CD to MP3 to just streaming at this point you wanted to add? Because JJ, I think, has given us some good insight there to the struggles.
Yeah, he took it all. I mean, the only mixtape.
He's paused, ladies and gentlemen. The internet
does not love me. That's on my list of technology that I do not like the internet. How far did I get?
You said something about
still talking shit about me.
Yeah, you were at the very beginning.
Okay, well I'm gonna do this, but I don't know why. But the only mixtape I ever made was for Javier.
Buddy.
There's that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, music is always a little bit of an afterthought for me. And I'm one of those people, JJ, that has like a 12-hour playlist, and you cannot predict what is coming next. There is no kind of
black and white music. Yeah.
Well, so there's some of that, but like you can go from like straight hit country, right?
Yeah.
Straight hit country to the hardest rap, back to Broadway musical, and then hit up Bollywood, all in a 4-song period.
Yeah. And I like that.
That's just the way my brain works. Like, oh, that'd be fun on that. And there's no rhyme or reason. There's no order. It's just chaos. And that's kind of how I live my life.
Yeah. I think what I like the most about it is kind of to your point out. Like, I don't mind playlists that are eclectic, to say the least, or like all over the place like that. In fact, because I love most music, so I enjoy that. But if I'm in a mood, like, my music, I tend to listen to music based on the mood I'm in. So, like, if I'm angry, I'll listen to certain types of music. If I'm in a good mood and just wanting to bob my head, I'll listen to a certain type. And what I find myself doing, like, I used to have big playlists like that where I had like 5-6 hour playlists. But the problem is if I'm in a mood, then I'm hitting my forward button until I find something that actually fits the mood. Because the other thing about music with me is it can change my mood. So, like, if I'm in a good mood and all of a sudden something comes on that I'm usually listening to when I'm mad, like, I feel myself getting there. So I'm like, no, I got to skip. And I get really irritated by skipping. So, like, that's why I have my Amazon Music has like 35 playlists because I have playlists for everything that are short and have my favorite stuff. And that way I'm not
That's funny.
skipping. It's just every song's worth listening.
I use Spotify's Discover Me playlist, and then I have my music, and I'll usually filter it or search through it if I need something specific. But yeah, I don't do playlists. The only playlist I have is when I want to concentrate at work, I'll do an instrumental movie playlist.
It's good stuff.
But we've talked about this one enough. I want to turn it to either Alec or JJ to talk about one of their examples that's just been mind-blowing for them. So I don't know who wants to go next.
JJ does.
Okay. I've been back and forth on a couple of things. Like I wanted to talk. There was a couple of times where I was like, do we talk about video game stuff? Because I was around when
that was
Atari 2600 days, Atari. I mean, I had all of them. It was the Nintendo, all that stuff. So that was a big one. But I think phones for me are the ones that are funniest to think about, because this is another one where I age myself, because I doubt either of you guys remember a time you didn't have cell phones somewhere around.
Oh, I do.
Years or not.
100%.
Do you?
Yeah.
Like, because I was talking to my cousin the other day, my little cousin, my cousin's son, and he was talking about the fact that, like, he went to a friend's house and they still had a hardline phone,
like a landline. Yeah.
And he's like, so his mom was walking around on this wireless phone, and I'm like a cell phone? He goes like, no, like a wireless phone. I was like, oh, like an actual phone? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, dude, at least it was wireless. I was like, when I used to call my first girlfriend, I had a freaking cord I could hang myself with if I was being stupid, and I'd end up twisting it around myself while I'm talking, and it was attached to the wall in the kitchen with my entire family listening to the conversation. And it was the only damn phone in the house. So it's not like you can have a private conversation back then. It was the whole family would know what was going on. So it was, for me, like, that's an intriguing and much slower progression, in my opinion, than, like, we talk about the music piece. And I watched both of them go from very low tech to very high tech.
I mean, I remember we had a phone in the basement that was the one you were just describing, JJ, with the long ass line. But then I remember the first time we got caller ID, how big of a deal that was in our kitchen phone with caller ID, because you got all those spam calls. You're like, yeah, you mother effers, I ain't answering that shit. Like,
well, and then, like, with the advent of, like, the wireless phone, even though it was still, now we had phones in every room, right? And then it was the race to who was going to get the phone. And then, I don't know if you guys ever had this, like, my mom would, like, and more as my dad than my mom, they would, like, eavesdrop on the friggin' other line. You son of a bitch, get off my phone call. So, and if you could hear it, it's like, what's this weird ass echo that's going on right now? So it's just, for me, like, because I left for 2 years to Arizona, where I had no technology in my life really at all, and came back to a cell phone, and it was the oddest thing, because they didn't have cell phones when I left.
What year was this, JJ, that you came back?
2000 to 2002. So 2000, they still had the brick phones, like those ones that they were giant. The whole hand had to hold them, and then they had the little square that flipped down.
Yeah, they push the start key first.
Yeah, you push, and then you, like, stretch out the antenna out of the fucking top of it or whatever. And, like, it was always, like, the weirdos, like the brokers and shit that had them, and, like, the real estate agents, and so they were carrying them around. And they had car phones and stuff, but they didn't have, like, everybody had a cell phone. Like, it was only certain types of organizations or certain types of careers that you had a cell phone, because you needed one. Well, now it's like, shit, my nieces have cell phones. They've had them for years, and I'm like, how the hell is this even? They're not even.
Did you have
15.
a pager though, or did you anyone had a pager before a cell phone? Because those were funny too.
Dude, I had a pager when I was 16 years old, so that my mom could tell me, come the fuck home.
I guess for our listeners that don't understand what a pager is, JJ, you may need to explain.
Yeah, a pager's like, okay, so now you go to a restaurant like a Chili's or something, and if they're really busy, they give you this, like, square, this circle thing that's got the lights, and it buzzes at you when your table's ready. To me, that's what a pager always was. It was, we have no other way to get a hold of you, because all we have is landlines, right? Nobody had cell phones, at least not in mass, right? So, but if we needed to get a hold of someone, you had a pager, and it worked like a phone. You had a pager number, so they would call the pager number, and then that number would, you'd say page or just send the number, and then you have it's like a little rectangle that could hook to your belt loop, or you keep in your pocket or whatever, and it would buzz like a cell phone, or it had some audio. Like, that was the pagers had, the beepers had the first modified ringtones. Like, you could get, like, different ringtones for your pager. So it would beep or it would buzz, and you'd look, and there'd be a phone number on this little teeny screen that you turn around and give a phone call to. Or you could be stupid like we were, and we'd call in, and you could do it just like a calculator. You could plug in numbers, because it would ask, what phone number should you have them call back? We'd plug in, like you did with the calculators, like boobies. So we would do that just to mess with our friends in school and that had pagers. So yeah, it was fun.
So
yeah,
When you talk about phones, though, JJ, was it more impactful when you went from landline to cell phone, or is it even bigger jump from like basic cell phone to like the phones we have today, the smartphones?
I don't think I think it's bigger in that it can do more, but I think the impact was just when cell phones came. Because like the thing that I remember too is if I wanted to hang out with my friends, like I would call them on a landline and then we'd go hang out, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't talk for hours on a landline because I got to stand there, I got to sit there, I got to wander my house with my wireless phone, and then I'm taking up the phone line, right? So unless you had more than one phone line, which was expensive back in the day, to have more, there was no need for it. You were taking up a phone line. So people were like, get off the damn phone because somebody might be trying to call us. So then we go out and hang out with friends. Well, now it's like, and I think it impacted in a lot of ways, especially like the workplace. Like people can get a hold of you anytime, anywhere, all day long. Like there's no disconnection. And I think while I get it, and I love having my cell phone because it's easy for my mom or my father-in-law or Casey or you guys, or we can communicate constantly. We can throw Westworld theories around all night long. I mean, there's
I could
so
not
many
do that on a landline.
Yeah, I mean, we take up a landline all day long. I mean, it's just one of those things where the convenience is great, but on the flip side, like there's no level of privacy. Like, and it's amazing. Like sometimes I'll turn my cell phone off and just set it aside and not think about it. And the vitriol that comes, like if people are like, I was trying to text you, I was trying to call you, where the hell you been? I'm like, dude, relax. Did the world burn down? No, then shut the fuck up and leave me alone. Like, and I think for me, my generation and older, because I'm at the top of the millennial generation, I'm the very gap. So but you get in that older, like sometimes while I love my cell phone and I'm grateful for everything that's able to give me and the access and everything else, sometimes it annoys the fuck out of me because I'm like, Jesus, just leave me alone. It'll go off and I'm like, stop it. Because I'm just like, I don't want to talk right now. I just want to kind of be on my own. And we don't have that the way we used to.
It's fun like with my parents who are way older, they're like early 70s. My mom's gotten a lot better, but my dad still has never figured out like the cell phone thing. It's like it's not even worth it for him to have a cell phone because you want to text me, never texts you. You call him, he never picks up, and very rarely he'll call you back. I always have to call my mom, and even she's much better than what she was 5 years ago. But it's like my dad, his cell phone, it's turned off sometimes. It's not even with him. I'm like, Pops, what's it for? Like why do you have it then? Because if we can't get a hold of you, then like you're worthless to me. But he's like the other extreme where it's like you have it, but you don't even like use it for like a basic function. Like if I call you, call me. But and then I got my little brother who is 26. Chase is the worst. Like you text him, you'll call him. He never calls you back. He never texts you back. And that's the opposite where like you're saying like you'll probably get back in a couple hours or maybe even the next day. He just doesn't get back to you at all. And I'm just like, I'm going to call Lindsay, his wife, because if I actually need to get a hold of this stupid kid, then I've got to go that route. And that annoys me in this life because if you don't have a decency to deal, I'm like, what's it for? Like, and then he texts me and I'm like, I don't want to text this mother effer back. I'm going to make him wait like 3 days, dick.
It's like Javier. Getting a hold of that dude is like a nightmare sometimes. So yeah, there's people that they just don't enjoy having it, or it's like, and I get it. Like sometimes I go on a hiatus and I'm just like, I should answer that. I'll answer it later. And then I forget. Because as you guys know, I forget shit all the time. So I'm like, I'll answer that later. And then like 3 days later, I'll be like, ooh, I forgot. And then I'll read it and I'll be like, I want to answer that question, but the context is gone. Like they're going to be like, you're such a dick.
Yeah. You're like, where were you like 48 hours ago when I needed that question answered? Yeah. Alec, chime in for a second. I'm just curious to hear, like, obviously this comes from JJ, but I'm curious to hear like the journey of the phone for you.
So my first phone was one of those like Nokia flip phones. And I got it when I was 13. So this would have been 2006. And for me, like I was one of those people where I had the phone because my parents wanted to check in on me or make sure I was alive. I didn't text, didn't call anybody unless it was my mom. And I kind of still use it for the same purpose today. The only person I call is my mom. Like, I don't even really like calling Oshi. I'll just text her. So I've picked up the texting, but really, like, my influence or the people I use my phone to communicate with are you two, Oshi, and my mom. That's it. Anybody else, I'm like, oh, why are you talking to me? Stop it. I don't want to talk. But yeah, so the journey for me, like I'm not a very technological.
That's it. That's the best one all night.
As you can tell by my internet, clearly not a very technologically sound
I wish our
person.
listeners could have seen that face. You did not look smart there.
That was perfect.
I never look smart.
Technologic.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been that big for you. The other two things I was quickly wanted to highlight. I remember I got my phone when I was like 16. My family was a late adopter. I even had to pay for my phone. But I remember the plans where you had after 7 p.m. you had a limited time, like calling time, and then I had like a certain amount of text messaging. Mm-hmm. So text messaging, when it started out for me, like everybody, you had to be sparing with that. Like you couldn't just go crazy with it. But there would be that time you had a girlfriend or your friend, and you go off on like a 50 message spree, and you're like, oh crap, I got like nothing left. But then through the years, then it was so funny how texting, I'm like, now it's what we all do. I'm to the point now where I call my mom, but I like trying to call my sibling. I called my brother about fantasy football a second ago, and I could have just texted him my thing I wanted to tell him. But I find myself going the opposite way now, where now that I have siblings that I'm not there as much in Utah, I want to find a reason just to talk to them, because otherwise if I text, it's like 2 texts and we're done. But what I find texting has been great for is like group chat stuff with my family. It keeps us well connected to an extent, or with you guys, and we talk about stuff outside of the podcast. So I try and call people more when I can. JJ knows this, for instance. I randomly will call him sometimes just to shoot the breeze when I could have just texted him a question. But I just like to talk. Like I want to hear how he's doing. And I think sometimes as we're talking about technology, just because these things are impactful and pretty mind-blowing, like when we reviewed Westworld, you guys listened to us, like technology doesn't always mean it's usually a good thing, but we find ways as human beings to really screw things up and really mess up the social impacts of what we're doing. We look at me with music, for instance, and we just talked about phones. All these things, the further along it's segregated us outside of in like talking to humans and listening to music with others, because concerts have gone down because you can just do it in the comfort of your own home and attend them digitally. You can just text people now. You don't even have to technically really talk to anyone. You can just automate a reply if you wanted to. And it's just funny, I think, as we talk about tech and the podcasts I'll do in the future, it's kind of weighing those options of what are the benefits, but what are some things that require maybe 10 more seconds of effort that are worth it to do. Where I will say I'm happy is the fact that we don't do voicemails anymore. Voicemails are stupid, and I am very thankful that if you really need to get something across, I never leave a voicemail anymore. I just text them and say, hey, I called you for this. Let me know.
Yeah.
I still leave voicemails.
I hate voicemails. But I like that my iPhone, for instance, I don't know if Android does this, it'll just give me the text so I can just quickly read it instead of listening to like a 45-second message.
Yeah. Mine, I just I get a voice message and it just plays it for me in the robot voice. It's really funny. I don't even have to access it.
Alec, you're up.
I'm up. Okay, so technology that's impacted my life. And this can be in a negative way, right?
Yeah, it doesn't have to.
Okay.
Sure.
Streaming.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I want to go take a shit or grab some food, I cannot do it during commercial breaks.
It's true.
I have to pause.
It's true.
Or miss it and come back later. And it's almost more of an inconvenience because it's never planned out. Like if Oshi and I are watching something together on Netflix or whatever, right? We are always pausing it to go get something more to come back, or I wasn't paying attention. And that was what commercial breaks were so good about, is they gave you a little bit of a breather in between. So I hate streaming. Let's bring back commercial breaks. That is why I have Hulu with ads.
No,
do you really?
No, it's not. It's because it costs less.
It's $1 more to get it without ads.
It's a couple dollars more. I think isn't it like $3 more, $4 more?
We have Hulu with ads too, because we share it with like Taylor's sister or something. So it's fine. I don't use Hulu like a ton, but every time I know after I've been like, oh, it's been like a 10-minute segment. Crap. Like, I'm going to get hit with some stupid minute and a half advertising. I hate it. Like, but thinking about it, I will say, I know when those come up, I have gotten up a few times and got something. So I can't always say it's been a bad thing at the same time.
I mean,
maybe you're right, Alec.
Convenience to it, but at the same time, now I have to be fully invested in whatever I'm watching.
Yeah.
And like rewatching Westworld and texting JJ was a nightmare because I'd be like, okay, pause. What do you say?
But if you could go,
I can't miss what's going on because if I don't watch it, I miss it.
I think as a consumer, I could be trained again where in a streaming, let's say it's like what Westworld is, like a 50-minute episode where there's 3 1-minute breaks where I know that they're always going to happen. Would I get annoyed at that? I think initially I certainly would, but would I be conditioned that that's just the way it has to be in the future? I could probably get behind that.
Yeah, I can't. And I'll tell you why. I have no problem with commercials, to be honest. I mean, I grew up with them. I have no problem with commercials when I was like watching live TV, and the commercials were varied, right? So you'd see the same commercials a lot. But the problem with streaming is
they're
these
always
fuckers
the
don't
same.
actually put any variety to it. So if I'm watching a show and I'm binging a show and I have commercials, this is why I have no ad plans in everything I do.
Because they're always the same. You're right.
It's the same fucking commercial every single time. And when I can walk away with your commercial word for word memorized, because that's the way my damn brain works, it's too fucking many times I've watched it.
That's advertising at its finest, though. Just beating Ed.
That is a fair point.
But I don't want to buy your product because I'm so pissed that I have your commercial memorized.
But at the other side of it, live TV with like football, for instance, I mean, I'm watching a ton of football, JJ tuning with college football too. Like at times I'll record games just so I can skip through the mountain of commercials. But those are like 3-minute segments. I mean, where they're very different than streaming breaks, where they're much just way longer, and it makes. I mean, a football game goes from being like a 3.5 hour, 4 hour, because college football is super long, like a 4 hour stint to like an hour and 45 minutes. It's a astronomical difference. And don't get me wrong, I love watching live sports, but man, sometimes like starting at a game an hour and a half later that you started to record and catch up, you save yourself so much time.
Yeah. Well, and sports specifically piss me off because sometimes they'll come back and like something will happen, and then they like you get a minute and a half of actual sport or the game, and then they cut right back to another set of 3.5 minute, 4-minute commercials. I'm like, you rat bastards! I don't even have anything to do, so now I got to sit there. And if you're streaming them, the break lasts longer than the commercials that are part of the stream.
And then they have like the little screen
standby bullshit. Sorry, Alec, I cut you off.
No, you're fine because you guys are making great points. But I will say what I really enjoy is YouTube, the way YouTube does it, because with a lot of their ads, they give you the option to skip.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, you have to wait like 5 seconds or whatever. But if you got to go grab a snack or something, you can do it, come back, and you can still skip the ad. Yeah. So if there was a skippable option in there, right, where, okay, hey, I'm not doing anything else, I want to get back to the show, skip.
Yeah.
Versus the whole just watch.
Alec, when I originally thought, when you were bringing this up, my mind immediately went to when you said streaming. I was like, oh, he's going to complain about how there's too many streaming platforms now, because I thought you were going to go there where we've almost gone back to cable TV where JJ.
Well, it's more expensive to have everything streaming than just to have cable TV at this point.
Yeah, like you can't do it. And thankfully, we have friends like JJ where I get to watch HBO Max because of JJ when I need to. But that's what that made me think of, because I think of technology in the wrong aspect. Streaming is absolutely pretty close to the top of my list, where just because you can make money off of a streaming platform doesn't mean I need like 8 platforms now. Because we could count out. You got Netflix was like the originator, and then you kind of, the next big one that I remember for me personally was like Hulu started to get pretty big. But then you've got like HBO Max, you've got Paramount Plus, you've got JJ, help me out here. What am
Discovery Plus,
Disney Plus.
Got Peacock.
Well,
yeah, Peacock, and you also have Stars, Amazon.
Amazon. I have YouTube TV because I got to watch live sports, because you got Sling or YouTube TV or Hulu Live Plus or whatever. Like, and we're basically talking like you're pretty much up to somewhere from 8 to 10. And if you're really someone that wants to watch shows on all these different things, Apple TV, I didn't even, goodness gracious. Like, and the problem is there's usually like one show where, like, for instance, with we've been watching Westworld, and we've been watching, like, we just finished Miss Marvel, which was Disney Plus. So we had HBO Max, Disney Plus. We Rings of Power's on Amazon Prime or The Boys. So that's 3. And then you've got what else have we watched? Something. Thankfully, Star Wars is on Disney Plus too. But like, we haven't had something on Hulu yet per se. But then again, we just reviewed Prey, which was on Hulu, so you had to have that. And you're just like, oh my gosh, like, there's so many things. And then we can't find, like, Baby Geniuses too, which, like, tells you, like, it must be not good if you can't find it anywhere.
There's a reason why we can't find it after watching it.
I mean, it's not even on, like, the way wacko ones like Fubo or Sling.
You can't buy it anywhere.
No, it doesn't.
They don't have it for sale.
No, it's not streamable.
They won't allow us to buy it either.
Yeah,
I had to go to a used DVD store to find it.
Oh, I know. It was a funny TikTok watching you do it.
Stupid.
Well, I think for the sake of timing for now, there's more things that maybe we'll talk about in an extension episode of this, because I think there's other fun things that we can dive into. But I hope you all had a good time going down memory lane to an extent, talking about cell phones, talking about something more recent with streaming platforms and wanting some commercial breaks, which was a little odd, I have to admit. And then just talking about music and where it's gone and how we listen to it now. But again, we appreciate you all listening to something outside of technically our normal sphere of movie and TV. Again, let us know if you like what you're listening to. If there's topics that you want us to dive into that are more recent or older and such, let us know. We're always looking to talk about things that you all want to hear about. Again, appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah.
I will say, because JJ, you made a face about me saying I'm old.
Yeah.
There's a TikTok filter that guesses your age. Oceana, who's in her 30s, got like 22. I'm 29. It said I was 58.
That's funny. I don't do that shit because
I'm an old man.
I don't do that
in
shit
a young person body that feels like an old man.
It picks up on this fucking little streak of gray right here, and it's like, you're like 90. I'm like, eat my ass. It's bullshit. So, yes, but when I'm shaved, I'm like 12 because I have like a baby face, and that's why I never shave.
According to TikTok, I'm an old man
because I just look a fat.
Well, we're gonna have fun right now. JJ, tell us where you can listen and find us.
Oh fuck. I'm on the spot. You can find us wherever fine podcasts are found: Stitcher, Spotify, Ghana, just to name a few. You can also find us on our lovely social media sites: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all at What's Our Verdict, and TikTok. That's where Alec lives. That guy rocks our TikTok all the time.
That's really fun. Where we're at. We're pretty, me especially, very lazy everywhere else. I haven't done anything.
We're really bad at the social media except for Alec. He's on point with that TikTok shit. So just go check that out. You can also email us when Mattson talks about telling us what to watch. You can either comment in the video and down below if you're watching on YouTube. You can go to our website and leave a comment, or you can email us at hosts@whatsourverdict.com. So yeah, do all those things. Find us. And as always, we appreciate you tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Cinema. Oh, it still doesn't fucking work.
Whoa!